Hi, this is Beth from Around the Table Yarns. Tonight is our last session for the Baseline Cardigan by Susanne Sosu, and we will be picking up the front edges around the neck and back down around the other side of the front. And then if I get a chance to, I'll show you how to sew on the pockets. So I'm just going to pause and get my camera set up. My baseline cardigan is done except for the edging. Grabbing the wrong mouse. Hold on. So I guess I could just show you. Here's the fronts of the baseline cardigan and the back. And I'm going to demonstrate picking up from, hi Martha. We're going to be picking up from the edge here and coming up the front and around the neck and down the other edge and then down to the back again. So it's going to be a very long single pickup, and then we'll be working the edges all at once in a ribbing and following along. One of the things we found is that the pattern has very detailed information on page 15 for the setup row 1 of the front hem, button band, and collar. That information appears to be very correct for all of the different sizes. And then on the next page, page 16, there's a chart. This chart does not appear to have the correct numbers, or if there is, it is possible that there's some discrepancy, but all of the numbers that we've checked so far have come out differently. So that's something that has come up with this pattern, but I think because the shaping is going to be happening right at the corners of the cardigan neckline, or at the base of the cardigan where it turns from the hem, I don't know that that's going to be a big issue what the final number of stitches are, as long as you have a fully picked up front or front and side, because for almost all of it, when I'm looking at this, you're going to be picking up one stitch for one stitch along the front edge. You're going to be picking up one stitch for one row at the, or for a pair of rows at the bottom edge. And except for the V-neck, you're picking up one stitch for one row up here on the shaping of the neck, and then one stitch for one stitch along the back of the neck. So I think that the numbers in the chart may be wrong. And I don't think it matters too much as long as you're picking up one stitch for one stitch or one stitch for one pair of rows. You should be fine in your final project. So I'm going to get started with demonstrating that. And I'm going to spotlight me. And go to my camera. So again, here's the chart on page 16. And for example, for my count, I should have 296 stitches. And I believe I come out with like 288 or something. I mean, it's definitely, the numbers are not the same. All right, so to begin with, the last time we were together, we were picking up for the back of the cardigan here, the hem at the back, and we were centering that so that there is an equal number of stitches on either side of this flap of ribbing that we did at the center back. So maybe it would be easier to show you that. So I'm just going to lift this up as high as I can. And You can see that this is the back of the cardigan. You're facing the inside of where I picked it up. And I have these stitches. So these are the stitches I'm going to start with. So you're going to start in the lower, on the lower right-hand side. So if I were wearing my sweater, I had my sweater on, the right-hand side. So situate your sweater as if you were wearing it on your body, and then you want to locate the lower right-hand corner closest to the ribbing. So for me, that's down here. So I can see the inside of my ribbing, and I'm looking for the far edge of that. That should be marked. And we're going to start by picking up these stitches here. And then we're going to pick up the stitches along the front. You can see that my stitches are currently held on a piece of waste yarn, so I have to transfer them. And then I'm going to pick up between the shaping of the neck where we cast on 10 stitches and then where we started our slip stitches. And then we'll be going across the back of those stitches. So this is the back of my neck, and then everything is just repeated in reverse down the other side. So let's get going with that. On my piece, there's supposed to be 51 stitches, and you start by picking up a stitch that already has a stitch in it. So here we go. So I'm going to pick up here where there's already a stitch for the back flap. And I'm just going to put my needle in from the front of the work to the back of the work. So I'm going perpendicularly through the work, right at that edge, right where there's already a stitch. And I'm going to put a loop around my needle and pull that loop forward to the front of the work. And that's all I need to do. And keep it there. And then I'm going to go in under the next two legs. And now I will simply wrap my yarn around. So for my size, I'm picking up 51 stitches here. And I'll pause the video and stop when I get to the interesting thing. So I'm coming to the end of the first edge, and I'll stop at the end, and I'm going to position the live stitches that I've been holding onto the opposite side of my needle. So the way she describes this, she says, unravel the provisional cast on of the right front and place the live stitches onto the left hand needle, not the one you're using to pick up. So there's the right hand needle is the one that I've been using to pick up. The left hand is the other end of it. So, and I've got a big loose edge on. So here I'm going to undo my provisional cast on and gently unravel, I hope. I'm going to cut it because I'm not going to be bothered with this right now. All right. There we go. There's my unravel. Okay, so now as I come to unraveling these stitches, I always work from right to left. I want to put the stitches onto my needle. Like that's a stitch. I don't think it is a stitch, but I'm just gonna stick it on my needle to be on the safe side. Okay, so positioning my needle so that I can go into the next loop from behind and then pulling out the provisional stitch. Yeah, I think that maybe was a stitch. Okay, I've got them. So you can see the edge stitch, and then I'm just going to be pulling out one at a time. And I'm starting at the neckline and moving with my needle down towards the hemline on my right front stitches. I'm just going to take each one out one at a time until my needle tips will meet. So I like to get them onto the needle like this. Just kind of move them onto the needle and then pull out the provisional stitches behind. Family is getting ready to feed the dogs. So they're calling all the dogs. Okay. Coming up to the end. Get my last stitch out. Oop, wrong way. All right. I'm going to turn back around to work from right to left again. So you can see I have all of my stitches off of the front of the needle, and I have my stitches finishing up down the front hem. The green stitches are now my front hem stitch. And so I'm in the second paragraph of setup row 1, right side row. And the first thing I'm going to do is a knit KYOK. So a knit, yarn over, knit. And then I place a marker following that. So the first stitch I go into, I knit into the stitch. I do not take off the old stitch from the left needle. I bring my yarn forward so that it's laying over the right needle, and then I go back into the stitch on my left needle for a third time, or sorry, a second time in it, but it makes a third stitch. I'm going to just show you that one more time. Take all of those stitches out. So knit into the stitch normally and pull through without slipping the old stitch off of your left needle. Bring your yarn forward to lay over the needle. That makes the second stitch. And then position your right needle back into the same stitch, wrap it one more time and come through. And now you have 3 stitches coming out of 1 stitch. And then she tells you to place a marker. This is marker number 1. Then you're going to knit up the front of the stitches that had been previously held. So I will come back when I'm done with that. Okay, so I finished picking up the stitches up the front, And I noticed that I had misread where to place my first marker. So my first marker goes at the end of my hem stitches on the front right hem and before we do the knit yarn over knit. So this marker is in the wrong place, but this marker that I've slipped in is in the correct place. So there's a marker, the marker number 1 comes before the KYOK stitch, and then there doesn't need to be a marker here, but there does need to be a marker here at the end of my front. So that's marker number 2. Then it says pick up and knit 13 or 17 stitches from the front selvage if you did a crew or a round neck, or 24 stitches for the V-neck. And I had somebody pick up today and she only got 15 stitches for her V-neck. And that was picking up one for every, let's see, 3 for every 4 stitches. And mine is a round neck, so I'm going to be picking up 1 for 1, but I will just demonstrate quickly what's the difference between picking up 1 for 1 on this edge versus picking up 3 for 4. So I'm here and I like to go pretty close when I'm starting. So I'm going to go under the very next pair of legs, as it were. And then I would just go under each color, each pair of legs. 1, 2. Now, if I were doing the V-neck, having picked up 3 stitches, I would skip the next stitch. So I would skip this pink one and go up. So that's what they mean by picking up 3 for every 4, is you pick up 1, 2, 3, and then you skip 1. But because I'm picking up for the round neck, I'm going to be picking up into each one. And it's just a difference in the slope of the line and how that affects the edges. So again, to pick up those stitches, my needle is coming in from the front face of the fabric towards the back face of the fabric. And I like to go under 2 legs. So I like to go under both legs of a single color. Splitty. There we go. And I'm picking up for the crew neck, so I should be picking up 13 total. So let's see how we're doing. 3, 6, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13. So that came out just about perfect. Today, when one of our other class members did it, she was picking up for the V-neck and she only picked up 15 and she did it very evenly. And I don't know if she just didn't have as many rows in the front of her sweater or what was going on, but whatever you pick up here, make sure that you pick up the same number on the other side. And if it's not the number that's written in the pattern, make a note of what you do pick up and then pick up the same amount on the other side. So again, this is, we've turned the corner, we've got the hem, the front stitches, and this is the beginning of that sloped line off of my collar. Now I have 10 stitches that were, 11 stitches that were cast on here. So I want to keep my stitches close to each other and still supported. So I don't want to just go under 1 leg. I want to go under 2 legs of yarn so that there's a little bit more structure. I actually don't love that. I want to see. This looks a little bit. I'm going to do a little fudging here. So what I have picked up, it looks like I'm coming out of this stitch here. And I want to come out of the next stitch, but there's only that to hold on to. So I'm going to go under there. Let's see how that looks. I want it to be nice and firm, but I want it to look nice and even as well. Okay, these are my pickup stitches now. So I'm going to put my needle tip in here. And again, I want to try and go under 2 legs. See that? I'm going to keep going and go under 2 legs each time. And the goal is to pick up 11. But whatever I pick up, I need to pick up the same number on the other side. So it was 13 here, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I'm going to pick up another stitch back here. That looks too gappy to me. And I'm missing a stitch up here because I should end with the 11th stitch going into the slipped stitch, which is here. So I have 9 and I should have 10 before I go into the slip stitch. So the way that I'm going to do that, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to just slip these stitches onto the other side of my needle because I can just dig out an extra stitch there. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then that goes into the base of that slip stitch. And there's my 11th stitch. All right. Now we're picking up the back of the neck. And these stitches are pretty much the same as the base of the sweater. They're selvage stitches, and you're going to pick up 1 for every color change. So I'm starting here at the corner. Now, if I wanted to, I could put a marker here just for ease of counting, but I don't actually need to put there's not a marker that's called for here. And I'm picking up 32. So I'm just going to stick this white marker on as a keeping track for me. And we're going to try and pick up 32. So I go under the first space, second, third, fourth, back into focus. So I always find it's easier if you leave a marker in place to count from. 3, 9, 10, 11. And at the end of the day, as long as you're picking up 1 for 1 across here, and depending on which pattern you're doing, 1 for 1 here and 1 for 1 down the front and 1 for 1 along the hem, if your number doesn't come out to exactly what it says in the chart on page 16, I am not worried about it because your numbers will come out for your sweater. That was where my graft was, or where my other side started. So I picked up one in this yellow here, and I'm actually moving a little bit further up to pick up one under that pink. So when they're next to each other, they look the same. But but when I was picking it up, it felt a little bit further along. So picking up stitches is kind of a good thing to practice, and it sometimes can be a visual, like you want to make sure that you're picking up a stitch that looks like it's a stitch width away. A super long cord on my needles today because I knew that I was doing this.
No.
Here we go, loop to loop. Okay, so I'm coming around to the other end of my neckline, and when I pick this stitch up, I will also, so my 32 does not include the first one here. Go back and check that. So let's check if we have 32. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. I have 34. Well, I'm okay with that. But I am going to make a note that I picked up 34 there. So then here's my one in the slip stitch. And then I should pick up 10 more down the front. Eight, 9, 10, 11. And then I'm going to pick up one for one down to there, picking up one for each color that changes. So yellow, pink, yellow, pink, yellow. 12, and 13. Ta-da! So my only number change is that I picked up 34 instead of 32 at the back of my neck, but those are nice and evenly spaced across. So maybe I have 2 extra stitches or something. All right. Now, same thing happens here. I'm going to unravel my held stitches here and put them onto my other half of my needle. So wherever that went to, there it is. So I turn again, I turn to work from right to left when I do this. And oh, I love the end of the day when I can't see. There's one. And then I want to pull this. Oop. Ooh, my windows are rattling in their storms. All right, so there we go, picking up those held stitches again. And again, I come from behind into the center of the stitch that was held, and then I pop out the provisional stitch that was holding it. This is a little tighter than the other side, so I don't feel like I can skip along. I'm just going one stitch at a time. If you were struggling with this, another possibility would be to use a slightly smaller needle than the one that you're knitting onto. So instead of using the other half of this needle, I could have just put them onto like a size 2 needle or a size 3 needle. A smaller needle is easier to slip into these stitches that have been held for a while, so they've lost their excess. They've lost their slack while they were being held. So they're not, and they were being held by a cotton, which is not stretchy. I don't know if that affected them at all, but there we go. Almost there. And then we're on the home stretch, really. Gone almost all the way. So I'm getting ready to place the third marker of 4. This one will be at the top of the left neck edge. And then the next one will be at the bottom of the left hem. There we go. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Pop, 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 pop. There we go. Okay. So I was working from right to left from the wrong side of my fabric. I'm just going to flip it over. And again, you'll notice that the green stitches are on the right-hand side. This is where I place marker number 3. And then we'll work all of the stitches down the front to the last stitch. In the last stitch, we're going to knit yarn over knit again. So that'll correspond to the other corner. So as I come to the end of my front stitches, it is in the very last one of these stitches that I just picked up that I will be doing the knit yarn over knit again. So that is, I go into the last stitch, knit without removing it from the left needle, bring the yarn forward around the right hand needle so it creates a second stitch, and then go back into that same knit stitch, and that makes 3 out of 1 stitch. I'm going to place my final fourth marker here, and then I will be picking up the stitches 51 back over to the first stitch of my back portion, my back ribbing. So I'm going to pick up 1 stitch for every color change along the selvage edge, including one in this same stitch here where the green is. And that will be the whole of my edging picked up. Okay, any questions about that so far? I have people muted, so if you have a question, feel free to unmute to ask. It's pretty straightforward, I think, if a little bit of, it's quite a bit of stitches to pick up. Close to 300 or more, depending on which size and which. Stitches. So the next part of this is that the ribbing is done with shaping at the corners. And those shapes are created by doing increases. So the point of the markers is to let you know when to do the increase that you need to do to create the shape at the neck edge and the hems. And we'll be probably doing the knit yarn over knit again, because when you do an increase in ribbing, you need to create 3 stitches out of 1 for the ribbing to stay consistent. Because if you only make 1 extra stitch, it throws a knit 1, purl 1 ribbing off. So you have to make 3 stitches so that you can stay in pattern of your ribbing. And again, our stitch counts on these are, we suspect the stitch counts on page 16 are either not accurate or reflect something. I think they're not accurate. I hate to say that, but I've checked out 3 different people's patterns, and their math is correct, and the math on page 15 is correct, and the math on page 16 just doesn't seem to be correct. So I'm coming up to the end of my pickup, and I'm going to end like I began by sharing a pickup with my back ribbing. all the way to the end. If you have trouble getting in there, notice I'm sort of pulling it apart a little bit with my fingers so that I'm pulling so that I don't split my yarn, so that I keep these nice clean stitches picked up. Okay, just a few more to go. So the last one is in this same opening. And there we go. There we have all of our stitches picked up. Yay! So it's all crowded onto the needle. So I have this one all the way to the end. It's a 60-inch long needle, but they're going to look all squished together. All right, now you're going to work back and forth flat. You're not joining to work in the round. Don't do that. That would be a terrible, terrible mistake. So we're going to go to the top of the text on page 16. This is set up wrong side row, and it establishes a knit two, purl two rib around. So it's going to slip one with yarn in front and then purl two, knit two, purl two, repeat to the marker, remove the marker, knit one, place the marker, purl one, place the marker, place a second marker. So there will be two markers at the corners. So let's just see what that looks like. My needles. Okay. So here I am at the beginning of my row. This is where I just stopped picking up. And all round and round. The other end of my needle. Just the other end of my needle. Okay. So we're going to slip one with yarn in front, just like we've been doing the whole time. Make sure you're grasping your working yarn. So I'm looking at the wrong side of my fabric. I slip one with yarn in front, and then I'm going to purl two. Purl two. And then I'm going to knit two, purl two until I get to the marker. Knit two, purl two. So here's where having a different count of stitches is going to be an issue. If you don't end on the end of a purl two before you get to the marker, then that could throw off your stitches. So let's see where I get to. Do I come to the right place? Knit two, purl two. And one way that you can adjust is simply to decrease one or two stitches or add one or two stitches as you need to get to the right count at the first row. Having just picked up these stitches, it shouldn't be a big deal if you change the count a little bit. So I've got knit 2, and then I will only have purl 1, knit 2. So I'm going to make an extra stitch here by purling into the front and the back of the stitch. I'm not going to worry about picking up or finding another stitch. I'm just going to make a purl 2. Then I'm going to remove this marker. I'm going to knit 1. I'm going to place the marker. I'm going to purl 1. And then I'm going to place another marker. That fit? Yeah. Purl 1. And I'm going to knit 1. And now I'm going to purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 to the next marker. So I knit 1, I'm going to purl 2, and then we're going to knit 2, purl 2 to the next marker. So again, I want to end on a purl 2. And if I don't, I'm going to make it work. I'm still ribbing away. I know it's a little blurry, but you don't need to see this up close and personal. And moving the stitches along. If you're prone to getting off track before you add or subtract a stitch, always go back and double check that you have knit 2, purl 2 across evenly to get to this point. Because if you have an extra knit or purl, you might want to redo it so that you don't have to make new stitches. I'm pretty sure I'm on track. So what have we got? We're going to add purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. Came out beautifully. All right. And then I'm going to put to marker, slip marker, purl 1, place marker, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, repeat now to 1 stitch before the marker. I'm going to place a new marker 1 stitch before my next one. So that'll be not here. This was my counting marker. That will be at the top of my the top of the other side of my knitting. So I'm just going to keep knitting here to get to that spot, staying in my ribbing. And what you can see then is that the increases happen on the right side rows. So row 1 and row 3 and row and I'm working on the crew and round neck. So that's where I am. If you were working on the V-neck, you would have started on page 17. Apologize, I could have said that earlier. But you're establishing the ribbing, and the markers are going to help you for shaping, because the shaping of this sweater happens at those points along the way. So do remember, if you've added an extra marker for counting, to take it out or to disregard it as you knit past it, as you work past it on this first wrong side row of the ribbing. And let's see. As I come up to my next marker, I want to repeat to one stitch before the marker. So I knit 2, purl 2. Repeat to marker, slip marker, place marker. 1, purl 1, place marker. Just double checking. Okay, I found an error in my counting. So I should have ended with a purl 2 to one stitch before the needle, before the marker, but I'm actually going to work that as purl 2 together. So instead of moving these 2 stitches, instead of this being 1 stitch, I'm doing it 2 stitches early, but I'm putting a new marker in, and then 1 stitch before the marker, place marker, and then instead of purl 1, I'm just doing a purl 2 together to get rid of my extra stitch. And then I'm going to slip this marker and then purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. And this time we're doing it to 3 stitches before the marker, which means I should end with a knit 1, purl 2 remaining. So what's important is that at the markers that you have the ribbing in the sequence. Okay, so this is where I had the wrong marker in place. So I'm actually going to work to 3 stitches before the marker is here because this is my correct marker. This was my wrong marker. Purl 2, knit 1, knit 2. There goes my wrong marker. Purl 2, purl 1. So, 2, 3 stitches before the marker. Knit 1. Lace marker. Purl 1. Place another marker. Knit 1 and remove marker. And then we purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 to the end, and you finish with a slip 1 with yarn in front. Knit 2. So I should end on a purl 2, slip 1 with yarn in front. Let's see. Almost. Off by 1. So knit 2, purl, I'll add 1, and then I'll slip this stitch with my yarn in front. Okay. So now the tricky part will be to come up to these sections and create your increases. So generally speaking, you should be in pattern to purl 2 until you get to the marker. And then she's having you make one purlwise, which to me seems like an excessive fussy way to do it. I would just do a yarn over or a yarn around the needle or that's not what I mean. I would do a backwards loop, make one with a backwards loop. That's what I mean. All right, let's see what we've got here. So I'm going to knit 3 and go back into my ribbing. And I just want to show you the increase that I would recommend instead. I'll show you a make one purlwise, and then I'll show you a backwards loop cast on, and you can decide which one you want to do. I think either way they would be okay. Just want to get back to that first set of markers. Okay, so I come up to the first marker, repeat to 1 stitch before the marker, and then that's a purl 1. Make one purlwise. So if you were making one purlwise, you would pull the loop up, put it onto your needle so that the front leg is in front. So the left leg is in front, and then you would purl into that left leg. It's not hard. Another way that you can do it without making one purlwise is to just do a backwards loop around your needle and then work it in pattern when you come to it. So either way will work, but what she has you do is place this strand over your left needle so that the left leg of the strand is in front, and you're going to bring the yarn forward to purl and go purl into that front leg. That's a make one purlwise. And then we slip the marker and knit one, slip the marker, and we'll make another one purlwise. So again, pick that up so that the leg is in front of your needle. Your yarn is in front, ready to purl. Go into that leg to make one purlwise. And then I purl a second one, and then I'm back to knit 2, purl 2. But I don't have knit 2. Is that the one? And purlwise, purl 1. I should have 2 knits there. So So I'm going to correct these as I come to them. And because it shouldn't matter too much in that first row. It's the next rows that'll be the most visible. So now I'm working to the next marker, and this time I work all the way up to the marker. But what you can see is happening is that the extra stitches being increased on either side of that marker will create a turn here at the corner. And that's the goal, is to make a pretty turn. There is a photograph in the pattern that shows how this increase at these corners looks in the final sweater. And it's quite attractive. Hmm. Okay, so as I come up to this one, it's purl, purl, knit one, knit two, and then I'm going to make one purlwise here before the marker. Slip the marker, knit one, slip the marker, and make one purlwise after the marker. Knit two. And so on, all the way around. So that's how we're turning those corners and creating that decorative edge. No. I don't think I have a picture of it. It's in. So I just want to show you on there. Essentially, what's going to be happening is we're going to be increasing as we go around these corners, creating ribbing as we do it. One of the things I always find is in the first row of ribbing, if you've made a mistake in your counting, add or subtract as you need to. Add that extra knit stitch, take away the extra purl stitch if you've got three. but just make it work out in the first row and then it will be okay in the subsequent rows. It doesn't matter as much in the first row as you establish the ribbing as it does in the subsequent rows. I've run out of time tonight, so I would like to record the buttonholes and putting on the pockets, and I will do that as a separate recording that will go up as part of Sweater Club for 2025 on our YouTube channel. So keep watch for that. And if you would like me to email you when it goes up, just send me a note to info@aroundthetableyarns.com. Thank you so much for doing Sweater Club with me. I'm sorry I didn't get further tonight, but an hour and a half of knitting and I only have 2 rows done and not even all of 2. So we're going to take a pause and get more video of this coming up. Thanks again. And remember, we start the Paul Clay sweater on January 19th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm really looking forward to working on that with everybody.